Good, Howard. What you got, buddy?
Yeah, I'm good. I'm good. You just named the coach of the year. What can I say?
So Nick, since Jalen's last trip to the Meadowlands, the play has really jumped. What do you remember about him during that time and his response to kind of a bad game and how that's helped?
What I really remember from that game and that response was just the entire team. Jalen's always been working to be the best player he can possibly be. But there's a picture that's up somewhere in this facility, and you would say like all the pictures in the facility are celebrating, plays being made by players in this building. But there's one picture that's up with Jordan Mailata with his hand on Jalen's back. Jalen's got his hands on his knees, and he's looking down, and Jordan's got his hand on his back. Because I thought, like, what an unbelievable picture of the teammates being there for each other in a time of a very tough spot, right? And that was after the incomplete pass on the last play of the game last year at New York. And so I just thought, like, obviously Jalen, we talk so much about him and the growth of what he's done, I think, and what, of course he learned a bunch of things from that game where we made a bunch of mistakes as coaches. We made some mistakes as players. And but what really strikes me from that game, obviously we watched that game and we're pissed about things that happened in that game and this and that. They played a really good game defensively there last year. On that, but what strikes me when you said that game, the first thing that popped into my mind was that picture of Jordan and Jalen, and that just speaks to the type of guys we have. That just speaks to the type of team we have.
Where is that picture?
It's somewhere in this. I don't know if it's. I'd have to look exactly. I know I'm supposed to be getting one for my office, and I was supposed to get one like a year ago. I haven't got it yet, but it is. Is it in that one hallway? It's somewhere up.
It's fine.
Yeah, it's somewhere up.
It's the first of 3 consecutive road games for you. Dating back to last year, you've had a lot of success on the road. What's the key to a good road team?
I think you're gonna have adversity on the road. It's not gonna always be, and you're gonna have adversity at any point in the NFL. But you're playing a lot of different factors, and it's just sticking together as a team, understanding that there are gonna be, this is any game, but like it's specifically on the road. There's gonna be ups, there's gonna be downs, and you got to fight through the downs and do whatever you need to do to just come out and scratch, claw. Do whatever you need to do to get out with a win, and so this team just understands that. This team knows that we got to be ready to have the dog mentality on every single play, and that even gets a little bit. Again, you don't want to say it doesn't happen at home, but it happens a little bit extra on the road. We feel like.
Nick, what do you see in the growth of Daniel Jones playing for Dayton?
Yeah, I see him doing a really nice job on, taking care of the football and being very, not screwing anything up right over there, and like just playing good quarterback play. I think that sometimes, a lot of times that is good quarterback play where you're not putting the ball at danger, and you still see the ability to make throws, and you still see his ability to run, and you see his growth as a player. So first and foremost, they're just taking care of the ball and they're playing good team football. Secondly, you just see the development of Daniel with just his, where he's going with the football, the throws that he's making, and then he knew he always could run. And so you're just seeing his development, and that doesn't surprise me. I know how good of a coach Daboll is, and I know their O-line coach is a really good coach. Also, I worked with him in Indy. But yeah, I just and hats off to Daniel Jones for putting that team in position. They're doing a good job of running the football and taking some off of him because they got a really good running back, as we all know. And so I think it's the development of Daniel Jones under Brian, but it's the development of the whole entire team under Coach Daboll, and with that's where I see a lot of growth.
Talk about that moment with Jordan and Jalen. Jordan had said in this last game that Jalen took him on the sideline to sort of calm him down from what the Titans were doing. Is Jalen's relationship with the offensive line different than other places you've been at all?
I think the teams that I've been on that have been good have that relationship amongst the whole group, right? particularly there's a special relationship between the offensive line and the quarterback, and I see that here, right? It's tight. It's a tight group, but I think that's one of those things when we talk about our core values: connect, compete, accountability, football IQ, fundamentals. Like when we talked about that, when we introduced that, it was like, hey, this is a common denominator of good teams that we've all been on. We all know that, right? Think about it. Are the good teams you've been on compete? Have the good teams you've been on, right? All those things. Well, it's the same thing there. Like the good teams I've been on have had that special relationship, not only amongst the entire team, or amongst the entire team, especially between the quarterback and the offensive line. So I think that's what you're seeing. Jalen and those guys are tight, and so and that's obviously what you want.
One more. What's the toughest aspect of preparing for a divisional rival that has so much familiarity with your roster?
Yeah, just that there's sometimes unknowns about things in a team. For instance, sometimes sometimes I was always taught this, like, don't ever forget about a good pass rusher, right? Don't ever, let's say you're playing whoever, let's say you're playing a really good pass rusher and you're in there and you're not in the division. Don't ever think about if it's not in division, right? Don't ever think that just because he hasn't made a play in the last 3 weeks, he hasn't made a sack in the last 3 weeks, that if you don't pay attention to him, he's not going to make a sack there. I think like that when you're playing a division rival where you know those guys, like that's thought process, you don't skip that thought process ever. Now we try not to skip it ever, but I know sometimes it does happen other places where it's like, hey, that guy hasn't made a sack in a while, don't pay any attention to him. Well, with this team, with the two guys they have inside, with their edge rushers, like, we know this team, right? Now Thibodeau's new, right? So, but, we did a lot of work on him. But the other guys, we've been playing for a couple years. And so, like, we know how much attention we have to bring to them. And so if we think that way, of course the Giants are thinking that way. And I think that's what makes division games, the types of games they are, where they're close and they're down to the wire, and it's always a dogfight. And I think that to me, that's one of the reasons why, with the familiarity, with the opponent's players. Now, opponent schemes, obviously, they weren't there last year, so this is a little bit new. But once it becomes familiar with the opponent schemes, then that it comes even tighter and dogfight. And so when it happens like that, you just got to be on your fundamentals more. You got to be all those little things that we talk about. All those details really matter.